What's going on, guys? UFC Vegas 42 recap. This was a shit show. From an entertainment standpoint, super entertaining. From a betting perspective, got killed early and things just did not go better from there. So, glad we hit a 100-1 last week, because this week, not so good. And that's why you got to have good bankroll management, survive when you can, and hopefully make next week a good time around. So where did we go wrong? Where were the reads bad that we were just flat out wrong? And where did we have some bad luck? Starting with Da Jung, Kennedy Njoku. Yeah, I see, this one's the one that I don't know if I had a bad read on it or if we had bad luck. When you look at Kennedy Njoku, first of all, he's never been knocked out, so that's not exactly something I foresaw coming. The fight with Carlos Ulberg, oh man, he took some shots, a ton of shots, and kept coming, persevered, faced a ton of adversity, won the fight. The very next fight against Danilo Marquez, different because it was takedown and whatnot, but persevered, showed some grit. That was even what the broadcasters were talking about as he was coming down to the ring. Like, this guy can take a shot, sure enough. And Da Jung, meanwhile, not that he's a light puncher, but he doesn't throw a ton of volume. He's been relying on his wrestling in most of his fights. And I just really did not expect Da Jung was going to walk out and just blitz right through him. But this is a terrible performance for Kennedy Njoku. I was giving him the benefit of the doubt. This is a guy that was very young in his career. He's got a tremendous physique. I mean, he's 6'5", 83-inch reach. Surely he's getting better. He came off a 2.5-year-long layoff before the Ulberg fight, showed improvements, got the win. The Danilo Marquez fight showed some improvements, got the win. Here was like big-time regression. Paul Felder pointed out, he's like, their toes are almost touching. Their toes were touching. He has an 83-inch reach. He had a 5-inch reach advantage over Da Jung, and he stood right in front of him. Didn't do anything. Wasn't really throwing any heat, just stood in front of him. And even with this terrible game plan of not using your range, not playing to the outside, not baiting him a little bit, I still didn't think he was going to get knocked out in the first round. And then sure enough, elbow got through, stunned him immediately. He freezes up against the cage, and Da Jung smelt the blood in the water, just kept smashing away, and Kennedy falls down. So bad read, sure, but didn't think it was going to go like this. I think everybody expected if Kennedy was going to lose, he was going to get taken down, he was going to get fatigued. But to get knocked down in the first round, I certainly didn't see it coming. Bad start, certainly didn't go any better from there. Rafael Alves versus Mark Diakese. So used Mark Diakese as top ticket material this week. Why? I don't know. Stupid. I guess I bought into the narrative. The guy is super athletic. He does have some good power. He's got the good low calf kick. Cardio is pretty okay. He had more experience. There was just good things to like about him. Alves, meanwhile, is a wild man. And we knew he was a wild man. Guy dropped Damir Ismagulov, which is a hell of a feather in your cap. Not very many people do. But then he gasses out. And that's kind of his thing. He was a monstrous 145-pounder who would eventually gas out. As 155 pounds, he's a little bit undersized. Cardio, still not great. Didn't look good against Ismagulov anyways. So in this fight for Diakese, it's important to survive these early blitzes and then take him into the second or third round, tire him out, get that calf kick game going, use the jab, set up the right hand, and just, be the better fighter all around. But never got the chance. Alves blitzed him. We knew that could be a possibility, but it didn't buy it anyhow. And that worked pretty good. I mean, he kind of got through with a good right hand, kind of stunned Diakese early. Diakese kind of looked like a deer in headlights. He hasn't fought in almost 2 years. He's had a camp switch. He's just opened up his own gym. He's just got other shit on his plate, right? For a guy to come off a 2-year-long layoff, usually they will have a slow start because they haven't been in there in a live action situation. So they'll take a minute or two as a feeling out process. But with Alves, there's no feeling out process. He attacked right away, and then boom, flying knee, which is just one of those moves that you can never predict. But flying knee didn't knock him out, but it certainly got his attention. He falls into what seemed like a takedown attempt, but mostly it was just Alves pulling guard in the guillotine choke. He knew he had it right away. But Diakese's partly stunned, partly ass in him this guillotine choke. He's got nowhere to go, so he taps out, unfortunately. And yeah, your top ticket's blown up, so all your tickets are blown up. So you have an option at this point. You can chase, which is never a great idea, but whatever. You've got a ton more fights to go, so you might as well have some fun. Or you can just try to focus on some props, which I'm glad I didn't focus on the props because I'm more of a decision guy. This card was just violent all around. Courtney Casey versus Lilian Jajua. Finally got one right. Casey, she was a 3-1 favorite, so it's not like it wasn't totally unexpected. But yeah, I think Joshua just fought a terrible game plan. You were getting outstruck right from the onset, so why wait until there's 20 seconds on the clock to shoot the first takedown? Like, if the fight's not going your way, you need to do something different. You need to shake it up. And in this case, Courtney Casey's beating you to the punch. She's rocking you. It looked in the first round like Casey might be able to get a stoppage in this fight. Like everything she was throwing was landing. It was landing pretty flush. Joshua's nose was already busted up. She's bleeding. Her face is starting to swell up a bit. It's like there's no way she'll be able to sustain this for 15 full minutes. The takedown comes right at the end. So she's at Extreme Couture. John Woods over in her corner and one of the best cornermen in the game. So he gives her the advice. He's like, let's go for the takedown again. You saw how easy it was. Let's go for the takedown again. But in the second round, just waited entirely too long. So again, Casey wins the striking exchanges. Or the second round's a little bit closer. And Casey's not landing as flush anymore. Like you don't get the sense that she's going to get a stoppage now. But still, she's up 2-0. And then in the third round, it was just mostly the same thing. I think Joshua just waited way too long in the takedowns. Had she really pursued the takedowns more, who knows? Because I'll give Casey one thing. She was super active off her back. She was slamming her with elbows the entire time. It wasn't exactly a comfortable place to hang out for 3 minutes, but you weren't going to win the striking exchanges, so you need to do something different. She landed a few strikes here and there, but certainly not enough. Casey by decision was definitely the way to go. And yeah, whatever. It was a 3-1 favorite. I think the odds makers are right on that. I don't know a ton of people that were on Joshua. Sean Woodson versus Colin Anglin. This should have been the top ticket play. Should have been Max. Should have been Woodson. I'm definitely a Woodson supporter. Been behind this guy, but yeah, I'll give him one thing. Maybe he's a tad bit limited. I think the Julian Erosa fight was a huge letdown for me personally, and that he was a monster favorite. Cost me that night as well. And he just kind of maybe slows down. He throws a ton of volume. His boxing's crisp. He never boxed professionally, but he has like a pretty credited amateur boxing record. You see his boxing's crisp. He loves to throw combinations. He loves to rip the body. In his MMA career, he shows a lot of decision victories. Again, glad I didn't chase the prop on this one because I would have taken Woodson by decision probably. And then he has the flying knee over Terrence McKinney. Again, a flying knee is a flying knee. Colin Anglin, meanwhile, doesn't seem like he's got durability issues, but he is coming off a second-round knockout loss to Melsik Bagdasaryan his last time out. So, recency bias, maybe he isn't the most durable guy. And he's not very experienced either. I mean, he's only 8-3 now as a professional, has a wrestling background, should have used it against Woodson, didn't use it against Woodson. Ultimately, it cost him. And Woodson just rib roasted him. Every shot to the body was hurting me sitting on the couch watching, like, oh my God. This guy's inside organs are going to be like beef stew. And yeah, that's what he did. He beef stewed him. Whenever he would try to defend the body, he'd rip him to the head again. And ultimately, it was just a losing battle from top to bottom. Woodson looked phenomenal. What we didn't really get to see is him go to a second and the third round. Could he have sustained it? If he would have taken a better wrestler on, would they have been able to take him down and whatnot? But matchmaking is matchmaking. And he looked awesome. So great win for Sean Woodson. Very spectacular win for Sean Woodson. And he definitely moves on. When you've got his kind of frame and length at 145 pounds, and unlike dummy Kennedy Njoku, you actually know how to use it. It's a very effective weapon. He put it on full display. So, yeah, he's another big favorite, but at least we're heading in the right direction, right? Andrea Lee versus Cynthia Calvillo. This is our first official Well, actually, Kennedy, we took a shot on Kennedy as an underdog, didn't come through. So Andrea Lee, our second underdog shot on the card, taking on Cynthia Calvillo. I should have watched this one back to see, was it a corner stompage or did Calvillo retire herself on the stool? That I don't know. But yeah, I guess coming in with Cynthia Calvillo, people they usually classify her as a wrestler. Oh, she's a wrestler. That's one of her advantages in the division is she's a wrestler. But it's not like she comes from a real deep wrestling pedigree. Like it wasn't like she was a standout college wrestler or a standout high school wrestler. She can wrestle. She was at Team Alpha Male. But I think her wrestling was good enough to get by Pearl Gonzalez and Amanda Cooper, Montana De La Rosa, Jillian Robertson. You can beat those fighters with that kind of wrestling. Beyond that, when you start taking on the tougher girls in the division, it's just not working out. And that's kind of the thing. At 115, she was big. She usually missed weight, and then she could go out there and maybe take you down. So things like a draw with Marina Rodriguez look good because Marina Rodriguez is on a hell of a roll right now. But she missed weight by 5 pounds in that fight, settled for a draw, didn't look good overall. It just looks good on paper. She's also aging at this point. She's 34 years old. She's switched camps, left Team Alpha Male. Her striking's mediocre at best, doesn't have a ton of output, doesn't have a ton of power behind her strikes, doesn't have a ton of variation either. It's mostly the same thing over and over again. And if the wrestling's not there as an option, she's going to be in trouble. We did read that going in on the preview show, and that's why we end up taking that dog shot on Lee, is that even though she's traditionally got terrible takedown defense, surely sure to God she's working on it. Sure to God she's wrestling every single day and trying to shore up that part of her game. But even in all the fights that she's losing because of her porous takedown defense, she still lands a ton of strikes. She still scraps. She still makes it a fight. And that's where Cynthia just didn't seem into it. Like right off the hop, she got right in her face. Andrea Lee met her in the center of the octagon and just started pumping the jab right away. And Calvillo didn't respond well. All of a sudden, the eye starts to swell. Also, the nose starts to bleed. She shot the first takedown, and Lee saw it coming from a mile out. Like, just such an easy stuff. Just like dug one underhook and shucked her off to the side. At that point, Calvillo was like, okay, then, you know, what's the plan B? The plan B was the wrestling because she came out striking, and that's not working. And now you have to go back to plan A, which is striking, which is also not working. She just got worked over from top to bottom. I was hoping, again, I would have bet Andrea Lee. Well, I had Lee on the parlays that I tried to rebuild, but I would have taken her by decision if I was trying to chase a prop. I didn't think she'd maul her that bad. I just thought she would probably win 2 of the 3 rounds by stuffing takedowns, pumping the jab, getting the kick game going. But going back to my initial question, I'd like to see, was it a corner stop? Did her corner say like, no, you're done. You can't take no more damage? Or was she like, I don't want to do it anymore? Because it always goes down as TKO due to retirement. I remember when I first started watching MMA, I'd be like, the guy physically retired? Like his career? But it's like, no, you retired for the night. You know, it's not a career thing. In this case, they're calling it a corner stoppage. It seemed like a TKO due to retirement after the second round. And I would go as far as to say Calvillo might actually retire. She's currently on a 3-fight losing streak. The UFC may offer a 4th fight, but she's certainly not elite. She's 34 years old. She's taken a lot of damage. She just got knocked out by Jessica Andrade, and now Andrea Lee put it on her pretty bad. It represents a step down in competition, and that Lee's only like a top 10 fighter, whereas at least Jessica Andrade and Caitlin Chikagian, title challengers. What more left is there, right? Your wrestling's not going to get any better. The division's getting faster. They're getting bigger, stronger every day. And you weren't really a 125 to begin with. You were a oversized strawweight who got away with taking advantage of that size discrepancy that she had over other strawweights. At flyweight, they're too big. They're too strong. They're stuffing the takedowns, and you can't stand with them. So she can do whatever she wants, you know, and I would support her either way. And if they gave her a real softball matchup, in on that. But her days of elite are certainly over. With Lee, you can't take nothing away from her. That was a good performance. She looked strong in there. Her striking looked pretty good. And even when she had like moments like she started to not fade, but just kind of like lose focus. Tony Kelly is her chief cornerman. He also fights in the UFC. Was on an MTV reality show Caged back in the day. He had her on point. Like, I know they were saying like, oh, half hype man, half corner man, but like, they were feeling good. They were vibing. So it's a new Andrea Lee, but it's a bad version of Cynthia Calvillo. And I don't doubt that might be the last time you've seen her. Joel Alvarez versus Thiago Moises, and this crushed my second run at making parlays, and then I was officially done after that. But I thought Thiago Moises would roll in this spot, and it goes back to ring IQ, right? You got Joel Alvarez, who has a 0% takedown defense in the UFC. He's faced 4 takedown attempts. He's given up all 4 of them, and not like he's taking on upper echelon wrestlers either. You know, he's been taken on by Danilo Belluardo. He's been taken down by Joe Duffy. Like, the takedowns were going to be there for Moises, but Moises also should have had the striking advantage. Now, Bobby Green beat him up fairly soundly on the feet for the most part. Michael Johnson tore him up on the feet before he caught the leg lock. So his striking's not necessarily good, but it should have been good enough to last long enough to get the takedown. And then from the takedown, Joel Alvarez is a threat on the ground. This guy's 6'3" at this weight class. Ooh, he throws up those legs. He's real tricky. But Moises is accredited BJJ black belt. Trains at American Top Team. He would have been fine from top control. It was the stand-up once Alvarez just swarmed him. He didn't do anything. He didn't shoot a takedown. He didn't try to clinch up. He just tried to back away, and he took a ton of shots. So I know the narrative is, how does a guy go 4 rounds with Islam Makhachev and only go 2 minutes, 3 minutes and 1 second versus Joel Alvarez? Yeah, excellent question. Excellent question. How does that happen? But it comes down to a style thing. You know, Islam took him down, grinded him, and he was able to use his grappling. This is a case where he just got swarmed off the hop. And whereas Michael Johnson couldn't finish the deal and couldn't seal it up and put him away, Joel Alvarez just showed a ton of just like grit. You know, he just went at him. At one point, it started to look like he was slowing down. Moises was rock. He was wobbled. But I was thinking, Moises can fight. He's got good cardio. If he recovers from this, Joel Alvarez's last 3 fights have ended in the first round in the UFC. He's a first-round guy. If Alvarez, he can't sustain this pace, right? He starts to tire down. Moises can work his way back into this fight, but that elbow, ooh, it just split his head. It just split his head like a hatchet. And the ref saw it right away and was just like, yeah, this thing's done. Yeah, I don't blame them. Moises was out on his feet. Joel Alvarez, extremely good win. And now he shows he can do more than just grapple. He can bang. Can he do it for more than one round? Well, that we still don't know. But he's going to be thrilling until somebody eventually takes him into deep waters and shows him, and he's forced to show what he's got. Thiago Moises, meanwhile, this is tough, right? Losing to Islam Makhachev, no problem. Losing to Joel Alvarez, well, it turns out the guy's a stud. So in hindsight, it might not be a problem either. But yeah, he just got torn up on the feet. And then an elite wrestler in Makhachev smokes him on the ground. You know, I wouldn't say Joel Alvarez is an elite striker, but you can see what high-level striking can do to him in the stand-up game. So where is he good? Where is he good? Well, why didn't he shoot the takedown? Well, he's got bad ring IQ as well. So moving forward, I don't know how much interest I would have in Thiago Moises, but it comes down to a style thing. And for Joel Alvarez, if he takes someone who's flimsy and has questionable durability, yeah, he might do the exact same thing. If they give him a junkyard dog, going to be interesting. But he's got a bright future, it looks like anyways. Football fans, who's ready to score some free bets? Now you can when you bet on any NFL game this week with DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. New customers who bet just $1 on either team to score can win $100 in free bets. When a team scores, you score. If Sportsbook isn't available in your state yet, DraftKings won't leave you empty-handed. Everyone can play for huge cash prizes all season long with DraftKings Daily Fantasy Sports Contests. DraftKings is giving all new customers a free shot at millions of dollars in total prizes with their very first deposit. Just download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DOP. Bet $1 on either team to score and win $100 in free bets. If they score, you score with the promo code DOP this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of the NFL. Must be 21 years or older, New Jersey, Indiana, and Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Minimum of $5 deposit and a $1 wager required. One per customer. Restrictions do apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Song Yadong versus Julio Arce. So yeah, at this point, I'm out anyways. Arce was the bottom pick on the PRP. I expected this one to be really closely contested. The volume would slightly go to Song Yadong. I thought the cleaner punches would go to Julio Arce. And the first round was very competitive. Kind of went as expected. I mean, I think Song Yadong had slightly more volume, but Arce was in it. He was landing good shots. He was feeling himself. And in the second round, I mean, things I thought were going fairly accordingly. Not that it mattered to me at this point, but, you know, you're still cheering for your guy to win, get a proper pick here. But Song Yadong's one of these exceptions to the rules, because whenever we watch Contender Series, or if they sign one of these guys to the UFC and they're 21, 22, 23 years old, how much can you really know at 23? How advanced can your game be? How good can you be? How mentally focused can you be? But Song Yadong's case, like, he is the exception to the rule. He's been fighting in the UFC now for what seems like an eternity, and he's still only 23 years old. He's racked up some very credible fights. He beat Marlon Chito Vera. Well, he's fighting the likes of Marlon Chito Vera. He's fighting the likes of Cody James Stamen. He's fighting guys that are in that top 15 in the division already. Julio Arce is no walkover. And if you were going to beat him, beating him by volume, okay, saw that as a plausible path. But the kid's got power. He's only getting better. That's the thing. He just keeps getting better. He has power, he has volume, and he can wrestle. His cardio seemed a little bit shaky because, again, you go back to the Marlon Vera fight and the Cody Stamen fight. He definitely fades late. But he's only 23 years old. Like, if he can shore it up, he's going to be a problem. And he did shore it up. And he is a problem. And that was a hell of a win. So Song Yadong's got an extremely bright future. And for Arce, you know, it's going to be in a retrospect. No shame losing to this guy. Like, he's going to go on to bigger and better things. But this is a tough setback. You know, he's getting into his mid-30s. He was coming off a double bicep surgery 2 fights ago. Had a bit of a layoff. Had some momentum because of the Andre Ewell fight. But he just got put back in his place real big. And at 135 pounds, this is the most talented sport division in all of MMA. So it's very, very difficult to work your way back up. I still think they could give him a Cody Garbrandt at 135 and he could shine in a fight like that because the other guy's got some durability issues. But against these young studs who are going to take your best shot and give one right back, they're probably not going to be great long-term for him. Chaos Williams versus Miguel Beza. I would say this is a bad read. I'm going to chalk this one up to a pure bad read. Julio Arce, I thought it was going to be close. It was close. He got caught. You know, not a good read. Thiago Moises, you know, in hindsight, terrible read, but, you know, he blew it for himself. Mark Diakese got caught by fly knee. Like, you can kind of make excuses. This one here, Miguel Beza, this is a bad read. This is a bad read because we knew he was hittable. Knew he was hittable. Very hittable guy. Kind of gets hit in all of his fights. Even Victor Reina on Contender Series beat him to the punch. Was out-volume him, out-striking him. Hitting, but it's Victor Reina. He's a buck, you know? As far as his UFC run goes, Matt Brown, 40-year-old Matt Brown had him rocked. Had him shook. Chaos Williams, if anything, has got a tremendous amount of power, but he's also got really fast hands. And one thing in the Matthew Semmelsberger fight, even though I thought it was super close and super competitive, is that his volume was pretty solid. Landed like 92 significant strikes over the course of 15 minutes. So he proved that he's got big power, fast hands, decent volume, and can carry it over the course of 15 minutes. That's all good stuff. He's also pretty young in the game. He had served some prison time, got out of jail, got into MMA, and so he's developing still. He's still getting better, and I shouldn't have slept on him at all. Miguel Beza, meanwhile, I don't really care for Miguel Beza. But again, he's got great low calf kicks. He's had MMA Masters. He's young. He's got good BJJ. He's got good cardio. He's getting better. He's a defensive liability, and when matched up with a guy like Chaos Williams, who just, you could hit him 3 times. You could calf kick him twice, which he did. He calf kicked him 100 times, right? He beat up the lead leg, but it didn't matter because your little shots, they're just like pitter patter. They're just like touching him up. He landed his best strikes. Don't get me wrong. In that first round, he landed a hell of a right hand that snapped Chaos Williams' head back. And Chaos Williams didn't even budge. Like his head snapped back and then he just kept walking forward. It was like, uh-oh, that's your best shot. And he just took it. But can you take Williams' best shot? Because it's a coming. It's a coming. In the game. So he absolutely blew Beza away. Killer knockout. Chaos Williams, super exciting. He's got a good little gimmick going. I like it. And you can't fault him. Even the Michel Pereira fight, which he lost, some people thought he won. It was actually pretty competitive. So, yeah, this is someone that they can work with for sure. Exciting stuff. Miguel Beza, meanwhile, he's been a defensive liability in all of his fights so far. So he's not actually doing anything to change that. He's not shoring it up, right? His head's still on display. When he throws his kicks, a lot of the times they're naked. He moves to the outside, but he moves, again, his hands are just below. He gets countered fairly easily. What's the best part of his game? Is grappling? No. Is low calf kick game? Can you build an entire, career? Can you build an entire skill set on just like one singular weapon? His right hand looked good, and against a lesser opponent, that right hand probably would have knocked him out. But again, this is all about the higher, you're not taking on 40-year-old Matt Brown. Right? When Matt Brown rocked him, well, at least he rocked him back and then Brown went down. But if that was a 35-year-old Matt Brown or even a 37-year-old Matt Brown, he would have killed Beza. He would have ate that punch like nothing when you walked through. And again, now that you're moving up higher up the ladder, these Chaos Williams types, they're tough. They're bangers. They're going to be a serious problem. So this is a bad night for Beza and a real good night for Chaos Williams. Felicia Spencer versus Leah Letson. Spencer ended up being second ticket material again. I could have avoided this all if had I just gone Spencer, Woodson, and Max Holloway on the top ticket, right? Because this is all hindsight shit. But we knew that Woodson would have a good crack, but little gut feeling like, what if it goes later? What about the wrestling? Felicia Spencer, we knew she had the goods, but what if she doesn't go to her wrestling? What if she just stands with Leah Letson the whole time? But Spencer just fought an excellent game plan. She just bullied Letson the entire time. There's a huge talent discrepancy in this fight. And she made it extremely apparent. This was very one-sided all the way to the finish. Spencer in cruise control. The tough thing is that 145 pounds is not a real division. So for Leah Letson, she's gone. Like I don't know, who else could she fight? Farah Zarin? Like I don't know who else there is for her to fight in the weight class, to be honest with you. And for Spencer, well, much of the same. Like she's the second best girl in the division, the third best girl in the division. They cut Megan Anderson, so it's not like you can run that back. Amanda Nunes is kind of more worried about defending at 135 pounds. Bellator's got a rockin' 145-pound division, right? I mean, well, not even. They got Cyborg. She's got no title contenders. PFL's got Kayla Harrison, who claims she can make 45. And Julia Budd, they just signed her, even though Kayla Harrison will walk right through her like nothing. But at least the 3 other good 45ers in the game not signed to your promotion. Even Arlene Blencow, the Bellator's got her, right? She conceivably at 145 pounds be top 5 or 6 in the world. The UFC doesn't have any of them. They've got just very thin division all around. So I don't know what they do with Felicia Spencer, but she's very talented. And this is a very good victory over a lesser opponent simply because there was nobody to fight. So anyways, had I decided to chase one last ticket, which I'm glad I didn't, I would have gotten killed in this next one. Ben Rothwell, Marcos Rogerio de Lima. Again, what can I say? I touted Ben Rothwell's chin. He hasn't been knocked out in 12 years. It was an early stoppage against Cain Velasquez in which he just took a thumping. He argued with the ref. This guy's good to go. He's known for his cast iron durability. He does not get finished very often. He can take a great shot, and he can fight 15 minutes. That's one good thing about him. 3 of his last 5 fights entering had gone to decision, right? He can go 15, which is not a rarity at heavyweight, but when you're taking on Marcos Rogerio de Lima, this is easy money. All you got to do is last the first round. Get out of the first round, and this guy falls apart. We see it time and time again. Rogerio de Lima is a fast starter. And unfortunately, he either wins those fights in the first 2 or 3 minutes, or he falls apart. And this one, it didn't make it to that 2-3 minute point. Rothwell, I'm not going to say he's a defensive liability, but he is slow. He's plodding. He's very flat-footed, and his head's up in the air. So against someone who's just going to bum rush him, he's susceptible to getting bum rushed. In this case, Rogerio de Lima bum rushed him. He smoked him with a good leg kick. He entered the pocket. He just starts swinging on him. Rothwell's too slow to counter. He didn't clinch up initially, which is exactly what he should have done, is just try to force a clinch on this guy. But instead, he stood at not at distance. He stood at close range with his back up against the cage and just ate a ton of shots. A lot of them landed flush, and I'll give him credit. He clearly does have a good chin because he was eating clean, flush shots from Rogerio de Lima, who's a hell of a puncher, and he was taking them. There was just too many. Eventually, he did seem like he clinched up. It looked like he was going for a takedown, but he just didn't have his balance underneath him. His legs were gone. He hits the ground. He would have ended up on back. Rogerio de Lima probably would have continued to just pound away at him, but instead Rogerio de Lima pulls a real veteran savvy move and just looks at the ref like, oh, whoa, you were going to stop this. It's done. And Herb steps in and stops it, right? So not a bad stoppage. I mean, he was absolutely mauling Ben Rothwell. But one thing you just need to keep in consideration, that is, if for whatever reason the ref hadn't stopped it, and Rogerio de Lima would have went ham on him, and Rothwell would have somehow regained his composure, or somehow, Rogerio de Lima was going to tire, man. He was not going to keep punching like that for very long. He was going for broke. And he looked at the ref to be like, you want to stop this? And the ref did. But who knows if it would have kept going? I don't know. If it was the jungle, if it was the middle of the jungle, nobody's around, there's a chance that Ben Rothwell would have still won that fight. But on an MMA night, I'll admit, Rogerio de Lima was the better man. He caught him clean. I can't complain about it. It was a fair enough stoppage. And he rocked him pretty bad. So, c'est la vie. Going into the main event, Max Holloway, Ria Rodriguez. I didn't think there was any money to make on Max Holloway as a 7-1 favorite, especially because all the parlays blew up. So what are you supposed to do? Everybody knows he's the safest pick on the card, but you can't bet him straight up. And then, again, very glad I didn't chase the prop side of things, because where do you go with this one? Would you have taken comfortably a Max Holloway by decision, or did it seem like there's no way here Rodriguez is going to take a 5-round drubbing from Max Holloway? No way. But he did, crazy. And I always tout on the preview show, Mexican durability. You are born from Mexico. You are Mexican heritage. You have that cast iron chin, just like Samoan fighters, Samoan fighters have cast iron chins. Mexican fighters, same thing. It's just in the DNA. Yeah, Rodriguez put that on full display. Mind you, it wasn't just durability he put on display. God, he looked good. He looked career best as far as I'm concerned. Unfortunately, he's running into one of the GOATs in Max Holloway, who could take everything he had to give, but by God, the guy looked good. I think we sometimes forget about how good he is because he's just so much inactivity out of him. He gets smoked by Frankie Edgar. It's a bad look. He beats Chang Sung Jung in a fight he was probably otherwise losing until the craziest knockout you've ever seen. The fight with Jeremy Stephens, the first time around, eye poke. Second time around, well, it's an aged Jeremy Stephens. Yeah, there's a lot, maybe not get super excited about. Guy fights once in a while. He hasn't fought in 2.5 years. He's pulled out of a bunch of fights. The UFC cut him at one point saying, like, oh, he's just not looking to fight. Dana doesn't believe in the kid anymore. It just seemed like maybe like busted prospect. And how does a busted prospect, as a giant underdog, going to come in against Max Holloway and take this kind of beating? Like, no way, no way. But his skill set was on point. First round was just a round of the year candidate. Had we not just got spoiled with Gaethje versus Chandler, we're saying this is fight of the year, right? Because this was a tremendous back and forth tilt. But right from the onset, he looked fast, Rodriguez. And a lot of the narrative for people that were backing Yair, because there was a few people, was that he was going to stay to the outside and kick. And for a guy that predominantly uses his hands in his boxing, and Max Holloway, and comes forward, lateral movement and kicks was going to be extremely effective. And it was, man. He was faster than Max. He stayed well to the outside. He landed some good combinations himself, but it was mostly just these hard kicks. Getting kind of Max wasn't finding his read. This is a very difficult round to score because Max rocked him bad twice, I thought. Excellent straight right hands down the pipe would find the money for Yair. But Yair just had the volume. He landed like 60 significant strikes in the first round. So pretty crazy output from Yair. And then it just goes back to, what do you like as a judge? What do you like as a fight fan? Do you like the guy that, oh man, he just kicked his leg 3 times? I bet that hurt. Or the guy that just absolutely snapped his head back with a clean right hand, but he acknowledges it like, damn, what a right hand. Comes forward, lands a couple decent punches. The punches weren't really hurting Max, right? The kicks were definitely hurting Max, but he's just got such an excellent poker face on him. It's hard to really gauge it. Whereas like the punches Max were landing, anybody could tell like, yeah, those are devastating blows. So it's a 50-50 round. Doesn't matter if you scored for Yair or Holloway. Pretty close round. A lot of people seemingly scored it for Yair. Second round, yeah, much of the same. Volume's definitely from Yair Rodriguez. Max is landing excellent. I think they said that he outstruck Yair in the second round. But to me, it goes now back to visible damage. And visible damage in the second round, I thought Yair was chewing up Max's lead leg big time. This almost seemed like Max wasn't going to be able to take the calf kicks for 25 minutes. But whenever he would get stung on it, he would either switch stances and come forward or just come forward. And that's the thing about Max, man. He's such a upper echelon talent. He's such a talented individual that he can change up the game plan. He can switch up the stance, and he's always going to come forward. He's always going to fight to the best of his abilities. And I think that maybe didn't mentally break Yair Rodriguez. It just made for an excellent fight. But shit, the second round was real close as well. And then from then on, I thought Yair started to slow. Max started to take over. The wrestling was also an excellent weapon for Max Holloway as well. The shots looked sloppy. They didn't look properly well set up. It didn't look like there was clean technique, but he drove through on everything, and he seemed pretty strong. They were good takedowns. And Yair, meanwhile, has an excellent ground game, but Holloway really put his on display as well. Good ground and pound, good top pressure, good ability to float from top position and just kind of move to wherever he needed to go, position to position, rack up points if you're playing him on DraftKings, which I'm sure the majority of people were. It's Max Holloway in a 25-minute fight. How could you not? He just did a phenomenal job. And then in the fifth round, Yair's corner gives him excellent advice. You need a knockout. You need to just attack this guy wire to wire. They know they're down. It seems like it's 3-1 Max Holloway. But in the fifth round, I thought Max definitely beat him. Yair did not come out attacking. He came out playing on the outside for the first couple of minutes and then kind of not get desperate, but he threw that wheel kick. Awesome technique. Super cool. It's the kind of thing you throw at the 10-second clapper. It's the kind of thing you throw with 20 seconds left. I don't know. You throw it with 3 minutes left in the round and knowing that you either KO this guy or he's going to get on top of you and smash you up. I don't know. But this is an excellent treat to watch. And so, unfortunately, the betting side of things wasn't, our way this week. But the fights were awesome. This is another fight of the year candidate. Overall, the card had the majority of them were finishes, and you can't get them all right. I feel like there was some bad reads, there was some bad bounces, but ultimately this is not the result we're looking for. And so all we can do is hopefully get it right the next time around. So that's the recap for UFC Vegas 42. And hopefully we'll get back on the right track this week. Dogger Pass preview show on Wednesday. And definitely gonna not fall asleep. I was at the bar until 12. Paul messaged me. He was like, yo, man, you gonna put up your picks? The card starts in 20 minutes. I look at the time, it's 12:40. I'm like, oh no. That's when I tweeted my stuff out. But I didn't put any props out. And in hindsight, props would have got smoked up anyways. But next week, to maybe try to balance out some of the parlays, we'll throw some props up as well. So catch you guys then. And hopefully you won some money. Hopefully you didn't get absolutely crushed like I did on these parlays. And if you did, congratulations. If not, we'll get it back the next time around. Talk to you guys later.